Margaret Kuhlman of Soul Astrology. The big thing this month is Saturn shifting out of Scorpio into Sagittarius. It did it before for a few months earlier in this year, but then retreated back into Scorpio so that we could all dig in a bit deeper for a bit longer to find out exactly the roots of our behaviours, of our fears. Emotional grappling with what goes on underneath, with what goes on beneath the financial situation in the world as well. By the 18th of September, the astrology suggests that we know enough. We've spent long enough examining the roots, researching for the causes, and we will be ready to use our knowledge to experiment with new ways, new understanding, to go forwards rather than looking into the past, to climb up, to get a better view, broader understanding, and a complete re-examination of our beliefs. Interestingly, the previous day, Mercury begins to retrograde in Libra, which generally suggests that we spend more time introspectively. In the new moon chart, Mercury is still going forwards and making a beautiful connection to Venus, so communication looks warm and friendly, with a good acceptance of our individuality, a recognition that people do need freedom to be themselves, and that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't communicate just because we're different. Mercury, however, is squaring Pluto, and in its retrograding will square it again. So it looks as though we may have some difficulties in appreciating what needs to be done. It's wanting a quiet life, it's wanting to have fun and enjoy oneself, it's wanting things to be harmonious, when in fact there is a need for change and readjustment. This can be a beautiful other place to be, having spent time making changes on a physical level, adjusting to what needs to be done, with Jupiter trining the Pluto, Jupiter in Virgo now, trying to restructure the way we live to accommodate any losses or unsteadying changes that may have happened to us. And this other place that we can go is to enjoy ourselves with our friends, offsetting the pressures. The difficulty could be when there is a distinct conflict between having fun and doing the necessary work. So let's just watch out for that. The new moon, of course, is in Virgo, so it's perhaps time to get ourselves reorganized around the work scene, as though a holiday is over. And the quincunx to the Uranus, which of course is connecting to that funful Venus and Mars in Leo, suggests that it's through our individual explorations, our discovery of what it is we really want to do, what gives us joy, the expression of our naturalness, that the quincunx shows how to bring that into our everyday life, so that the very work itself is a joy. It's pointing to this understanding that we need to be ourselves and express ourselves in order to be healthy. It seemed to me, first looking at it, that perhaps what we can be doing is using the last of the days of Venus and Mars in Leo to find out what it is that gives us joy, and to express that and to receive from the world all the beauties, the pleasure, to fill our inner cup, and that when we are just half fulfilled, we would naturally turn, as human beings, we would naturally turn towards being of service to others. Perhaps the reason that so many people don't want to help anybody else, particularly, is that they are still craving some inner expression which they never allow themselves. What is it that we are stopping ourselves from really enjoying? Why do we not do those things that give us joy? So maybe this month is a little window for us to really find out those things, express those things, so that we can come back more fully, more integrated, and naturally share our energy around in ways that's valuable. There seems to me to be a potential for overdoing the being helpful thing, with the Jupiter being opposite Neptune. Jupiter in Virgo, it's very much about improving life for everybody, being very generous with that, and trining the Pluto. These helpful things can really transform situations, but we need to be very sensitive to what's actually required. It's easy to think you know what somebody needs, when it's actually what you would need if you were in that position. So there is a call here to listen, and maybe that's what the communication is about. It's sitting with people and listening, and sitting with ourselves and listening to our own inner voices to find out what's true rather than making assumptions. The full moon chart shows a time of manifestation. By then, Saturn will be in Sagittarius. It's the 28th of September, and it's making a beautiful connection to the nodes of the moon, sextiling the north node, which is where the sun is, trining the south node, which is where we find the moon. So this opening out that Saturn is suggesting, experimenting with new solutions, seems to be that energy which moves us from the selfish position, just looking after number one, towards this lovely Libran position of justice for everyone. And Mercury retrograding onto the Sun to show that it isn't just the feeling of wanting justice, but the ability to talk about it. Discussion, which stems from real experience. Jupiter's still trining Pluto, and Mars is moving forward to join it, energizing that transformational work, taking us into October. It will be so interesting to see what happens in the world and how this plays out. That very first part, though, around the full moon, so perhaps the second half of September, has got the Mars, again, it's in Virgo, perhaps an energy of wanting to get it just right. It's got to be perfect, it's got to be helpful, it's got to be healthful, and it squares the Saturn, showing that we may have to go against many people's beliefs. Whenever Saturn is squared by Mars, we very often find there is conflict, and in a way it depends which end you are as to how it looks to you. So the Saturn people, Saturn in Sagittarius people who are all up for the new thing, could be finding themselves attacked almost by those who say, well, that's all pie in the sky, that's not possible, you've got to do it right, and right is not that. So, a bit like last month, if you find yourself on the energetic end, where you're the one who's doing the criticising, just stop, because it probably means that you haven't got a broad enough picture. Virgo, when it gets the bit between its teeth, very often doesn't see the wood for the trees, that is to say the forest for the trees. It sees the detail and not the bigger picture. Saturn has its hand on the bigger picture, and with its connectedness to the nodes of the moon and the full moon itself, it's more likely to be the thing that's going to work. So broaden your horizons, broaden your perspective, open your mind. It's a call to not judge and not react in a dismissive way. So this whole month is the introduction of Sagittarius out of Scorpio, the emotional depth of Scorpio, is a fund of energy, a reservoir of energy, which enables us to adventure into new territory. And Mars moving into Virgo for the second half of the month has the capacity to bring about a sense of groundedness, calming us down from the Leo funful side, and perhaps focusing us a little more towards what's healthy, what's sensible for the body. Suspend judgment. Open your mind and heart to what is before you. Greet this moment and bid it welcome. For unless you can do this, you will not find out what it brings. Your experience of the moment is an extension of yourself and can tell you everything you need to know. Formulate the question you would ask, and the answer will be there waiting for you to translate its meaning into your life. But judgment and reaction stifle intuition. All you will have is confusion, as the answer slips away like dust in a cold wind. Instead, listen with your heart to whatever enters your world, and your natural humanity will guide you.